With the development of the times, the ever-advancing technology has become an indispensable part of our lives. It not only helps people to live more conveniently, but even uses its own huge database to analyze and help people to make decisions. In the movie Minority Report, there is the use of technology to determine the fate of some humans. Although this technology is embodied in the film in the form of a superpower, the way people use the profits is like using technology in general. Prophets produce images of information about criminals, and detectives use these images to prevent crime from occurring. The main characters were predicted to be criminals and were arrested according to the prophets. However, at the end of the movie, the main characters proved that the humans are not always following the predictions, for they can change their minds or control themselves from making mistakes. From this, it can be concluded that even if the future technology is more advanced, it cannot really predict the inner thoughts of people, because the human heart is always changing. Therefore, here comes my research questions. Is relying on technology to judge or even judge whether human beings are guilty or not a kind of blasphemy against human rights? Should we put our fate in the hands of technology? When we are using technology to make decisions, we have to make sure that technology is neutral and does not have its own tendencies like humans do. However, when technology is not guided and modified by all, its presence is often abused by those with power to exacerbate inequality. First, my research will discuss why technology is not a good fit as a dominator. Let us see an example during the Second World War. The US government subcontracted with IBM to use its hilarious punched card tabulating machines for the purpose of surveilling and targeting Japanese Americans. However, this technology was originally created for census tabulation's purpose. The technology and the data collected by it quickly became weaponized to fulfill bigoted and xenophobic identity tracking purposes. As noted above, as technology develops, those with decision-making power will be more likely to use it to exacerbate structural inequality and oppress marginalized groups. And because people with power in their hands have easier access to and mastery of the advanced technology, there is a greater chance that technology will be used for unobjective purposes. For technology, the support of power is essential. The birth and the application of technology takes a lot of time and money and cannot be achieved without the support and approval of power. Although technology is not necessarily controlled by power, the influence of power on technology must be considerable. And if technology is used by power to exacerbate structural inequalities, then technology is an accomplice to power oppression. Since the topic of the technology and crime prediction is still relatively rare, I identified a more referenced paper by looking at the abstract of the article. Peter Grabowski is Professor Emeritus in the School of Regulation and Global Governance at the Australian National University, and his article have an unique insight and authoritative impacts on criminology. Meanwhile, the article was published on the official website of the Australian Institute of Criminology, which is Australia's national research and knowledge centre on criminal and crime justice. In this essay, Peter discusses the benefits and drawbacks of emerging technologies for crime control in his article. Although this article was published in 2010 and discusses technology that now is partially used in practice, the framework of his discussion of technology can still be referenced. He argues that while technology has turned many impossible scenarios into reality, those who use it also need to follow many rules because technology itself is neutral, but if those who use it are not reasonably trained, the misuse or abuse of technology is more than a useless worry. After investigating and researching, I believe that people should not use technology to make conclusions about the facts of a crime. First of all, human intervention is essential in the face of technology. And if people leave all the work to machines to judge, then the human rights of criminals cannot be guaranteed. In most of the sources, scholars affirm the help that technology brings to crime prediction and investigation, but they all agree that it should only be used as a reference and not as a final arbiter. In the film Minority Report and the Reality of the Scholar's View, technology as a tool that is constantly changing and processing still needs to be regulated to use. The use of technology in society does not only make mistakes in crime prediction, but it also gives us a warning. Even though technology is powerful, it should not be used only to maintain the faith of humanity on the minority.